give back to the next generation of kids that are growing up. I love questions and answers. So if you have a question, something pops up, it's on a slide, feel free to just throw it out there or raise your hand. Anything is fine. It won't throw me off my game. I actually like that much more because then we're able to target the content a little closer to what you're looking for or what's beneficial or what we look for at Nike, or I worked at Converse for a long time too, what we look for in new emerging candidates just like you guys. Okay? I'm going to like alternate back and forth between here and make sure that I don't go off like a camera screen over there. I tend to walk all over the place. We're just videotaping it for the other class. Let's take a look at, how should I advance the...
So I usually use the keyboard. Is that going to be okay for you?
Sure. Yeah. In here? Okay, perfect.
I'm just going to test the light
Okay.
to see. We don't need that one off. Is this one off? Is that a little better, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can
okay,
see the
great.
slides maybe a little bit more.
Is that okay
Tell
for
me
you?
which one to advance. It looks like it's just kind of rolling. Can we go to like screen mode or?
I'm always in PowerPoint. I'm not an advanced Apple person.
Try fit to page and see if that works, and then, or screen, slideshow.
It's opened in a PDF, so you can only scroll through. You have to open it in a PowerPoint.
Okay. So
I
how
don't
will
know
get
if I
really
like-
good at like slowly scrolling through stuff? This is the agenda for today. No worries. I'll just give you like a little bit of bio on me, just like a little bit of background, because I think that sometimes frames up questions. We'll go through some project work, and then we'll talk a little bit about trend forecasting in particular. Things that we look for, how we go through the process. We'll keep it kind of pretty high level, but if you guys have detailed questions, I love those too. So we can go through that way as well. Okay, this is another photograph of me. I'm a designer, a creative director. I'm trained as an industrial designer. I went to Lasell University in Pittsburgh. I'm a true kind of product designer. So problem solver, I design, I sketch, draw, do all of those things. And then eventually I started as a footwear designer at Nike and kind of worked my way up to be creative director to sort of oversee a team of people that are all trying to kind of guide the direction of the running business, in my case. I was born in Tokyo, Japan. So that's unusual fact for you guys. So I grew up a diverse candidate. I was the only white kid in my class. Everyone else spoke Japanese. Everyone else had dark hair. I looked like an alien amongst this group. And I think it taught me some really good lessons at a very early age. One, it's to sort of appreciate the lots of different cultures and a different global perspective. But at an early age, I got exposure to just some of the best sort of technologies and innovations and some of the fashion industry that exists in Tokyo. And I think that influences me today. So my dad was a professor of Japanese politics and studying in Japan, so that's what I was doing there. And he got a job at Lasell University, which was where I grew up, so Ithaca, New York. Really quiet town, and it allowed me to sort of spread my wings. I was one of those kids who was really quiet, really introverted. I put my headphones on and I would sketch and I would do posters for like you running for class president. Like that was me, like that was who I was. And slowly over the years I've gotten a little bit more comfortable about being extroverted and talking in front of large groups, but I was the quiet kid who drew all the time. And so this is some of my work. I'm a surrealist painter even today. I do a lot of different illustrations. I still have a lot of fun doing these types of things. I mentioned that I went to Lasell University. This is just some of that project work. But the real fun thing was I launched a company when I was 18 years old. Everybody was wearing a one-strap backpack. And I thought, why do you have that second strap if you could just taper and streamline and invent something completely new? And so I invented this toe pack. This is the first patent that I ever received. I have 52 patents now, all utility patents on new inventions in the world. I made and produced 3,000 of these in New York City, and then we sold them to local college kids. You can wear it as a satchel. That's how I loved wearing it, you know, sort of as a one-strap backpack. But you could alternate left shoulder or right shoulder, and it had a lot of student things, like a student ID badge that you could just pull out really quickly and go through food services or that sort of thing. So really cool project, really fun for me to learn about business at an early age, and it helped pay for a little bit of college. Not the whole thing, because as you guys know, college is crazy expensive. Then I went to a place called Daedalus Design in Pittsburgh, and I worked as a design consultant. Mostly medical equipment, so this is a LifeCore vest, this is a defibrillator vest that will start your heart if it stops. If you're waiting for a heart transplant and your heart stops, it's got defibrillator pads and a battery on it, and it jump starts you back to life. So it's saved over 1,000 lives since this first was introduced. So that toe pack that I did, I was cutting and sewing and stitching the first prototypes, and then I cut and sew all these prototypes, and so I was sort of known as a seamstress early in my career, and I would be building and making all of those samples, and I think that gave me some unique skills to then apply later, just some of those soft goods skills. And then I became a footwear designer at Nike. It was sort of like a dream job. I grew up a runner, I grew up an athlete, I grew up doing a lot of these things, and gosh, like what an incredible place to work. Nike for 22 years, I mean, it's kind of hard to beat that place. So one of the first shoes I designed was this Max Plus One. This was 20 years ago, it just had its 20-year anniversary. It's still selling today. It's over 9.5 million pairs sold, so kind of crazy. For me, it's amazing too. So I've got 3 kids. We were just talking about our kids. So I've got a 17-year-old, 15-year-old, and a 13-year-old. And now some of their classmates are wearing some of the products that I designed, which is totally nutty. It's like incredible to have that full circle experience. And I'm feeling super, super old and dated. I used to be young and cool. It was like a long time ago. But
I think you're still pretty young and cool.
Okay, right. Yeah, despite the gray hair. These are just some of the sketches that I had done of different shoes. You know, some have been featured in the Museum of Modern Art, some have been in the Smithsonian Museum, or won different kind of running awards over the years. This was another like amazing fun project that I worked on. I got to design the original Spider-Man costume. So this, I'm going to skip back to this previous drawing. This shoe, this is called the Kukini. It's featured in the Smithsonian. This is the first shoe to ever have no shoelaces. This is actually a stretchy web that goes over your foot, and it just slides on and off. Really cool. So Jim Atchison was a costume designer in LA. He saw that shoe and said, we're going to build the whole Spider-Man outfit out of that same material. So he called Nike up and said, whoever designed that, can you send them down for 1 month to Hollywood and work with me and my team, and we'll build this outfit, right? So amazing experience. Incredible to see this entire team working on this costume design. And so I got to do, you know, some of the initial sketches on what we could do. This is actually me in the hotel room trying on the Spider-Man outfit for the very first time. No one got to do that. I'm roughly the same size as Tobey Maguire. And then this was in the costume department. You might not recognize this version of the Green Goblin, but that's what originally was going to happen in the movie. It wasn't this mechanical suit that they wound up going with. It was all prosthetics in the first, and I thought for sure it was going to go forward like this. Tim Robbins was originally the Green Goblin, and then John Malkovich, and then eventually, I'm blanking on the final actor that we worked with. But anyway, he wound up getting Willem Dafoe wound up getting a final thing. And so we got to work on that. Really fun project. I'm going to keep moving. I was also creative director for the Olympics in Beijing in 2008. And so I worked with athletes to build every single one of these shoes for all 28 sports. From gymnastics to canoeing kayaking to taekwondo to beach volleyball to rowing, to track and field, to equestrian. Just like a wide range of things. And this I started getting really good at doing athlete interviews. Let me talk to you and find out more, as much as I possibly can, to help you win a gold medal. And it was like the best project I've ever worked on because it was so laser focused on exactly what you're looking for. Win gold medals. It's not like do something for fashion or do something because you think it kind of looks cool. It's form follows function, build the best thing you possibly can. Any questions on some of these? Like, I know this is like one of those things where people love like, what the hell is that one right there? Yeah.
So when you worked with these Olympic athletes, did they have customizable foot lasts when you worked with them?
Yeah. I think perfect question and great knowledge that most footwear is built off of a last. And so, yeah, in many cases, like a LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, we were building shoes directly for them one-to-one. So we'd cast their foot, sit down, tailor fit for them. This is Kobe's shoe. I was devastated, a week or two ago. I had met him several times. We worked closely with him. One of my best friends, Eric Avar, was his personal designer for 9 years. So that was just absolutely devastating news to have somebody so young. And I thought he was sort of on the verge of a whole nother life and a whole nother career. So having something like that cut short was really, really tough. So almost all of these were customized foot lasts for each one. And some had products existing before, and some we had to invent from scratch. Beach volleyball didn't have footwear, and they still very rarely do they wear footwear, but they did wear it in some of the trials. These have little mini cleats on them that grip the sand just a little bit more and help propel you, gives you about a half a step towards the ball. Several of them won international design awards, including Flyknit, which was, I think, one of my 30th utility patent is these Flywire cables. These are Vectran threads, really, really strong threads that lock down your foot. They act like a synthetic tendon to keep your foot on the platform. Lightest track spike ever built. So after going there, Nike owns Converse. How many people knew that? Okay, quite a few. That's good. Not everybody knows that. But great relationship between Nike and Converse, and so after the Olympics, I got to be Director of Innovation at Converse, and we did just a wide range of things. And I tend to put it in the bucket of fashion innovation. So we did lots of garment dyes and washes and finishes and treatments on the Chuck Taylor. But I also did innovations too, like this is a really lightweight summer shoe that you can get wet and it dries quickly. It's almost like an alternative to a sandal. It's a slip-on shoe, but it's really light and really, really soft. And then we did a customization platform too, something called Converse Inc. Have you guys been to the Converse store and seen this digital printing at all? Anyway, it doesn't matter too much. We were able to take a machine and take two finished shoes, stretch them out onto a platen, and then digitally print whatever graphic you want onto the shoe. So you can walk in and say, hey, I want to, I've done an illustration, I've done a sketch, I want to put it on there. Or what's Lasell's mascot? Because tigers or bears or... What is it?
A laser.
Laser? Wow, that is a unique. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. You could easily put a laser on there. Right. Right. You can put your name. You can put whatever you want, whatever graphic you want. This accounts for about 10% of the sales in the store. So there's just lots of young people that want to feel a little bit more unique and a little bit special, and then they're able to do that with this customization platform. Okay, so that was about 10 years ago that I was Director of Innovation at Converse. Then I went back across the country and was Vice President Creative Director for Nike Running. And I think we'll talk quite a bit about this role because that's where we did most of the trend forecasting. And I'll talk to you a little bit about what we did and how we sort of looked at the season. Wide range of products. We did the FASH collection, which is all reflective collection. This came from data analytics telling us that most people were running at night, before school or after school, things like that. We saw this need and this opportunity, and so we did a head-to-toe collection, all new jackets, all new tights, all new shoes that have this amazing new 300 candle power reflectivity. Just a dynamite collection for us, looked really cool. Some of you who've seen Nike Free or heard about Nike Free, I worked on that for many years, helped invent it, including this auxetic pattern, which is more flexible and more biomechanic. It works more naturally with your body. Or some of the dry fit knit, which is some really lightweight, breathable products. I've done a lot with Olympics, including the Olympic uniforms in 2016. Or the Vapor Max. I don't know how many people have seen this shoe before. This is actually one of the hardest projects I've ever worked on. most shoes have a layer of foam, and that is very accommodating, right? It can be a mill this way, a mill that way. You can kind of like hand glue them together, and it's just, if it's a little bit off, it's very forgiving. But when you do a full injection mold like this, it has to be perfect. So the engineering behind it was really difficult. And then you're really riding on one big, large pillow of air, and really easy to have that air pop. You know, have like a stone pop it, or have your body weight, you know, put so much weight and pressure onto that air bubble that it actually peels around the side and hits the ground and then eventually pops. So getting that right was very difficult. And then we invented this new Flyknit technology, which is basically like a really supportive sock with these magwire cables that do that same thing that I had done on the Fly Wire, but we did it in a knit process. So locks your foot down, keeps you really running very comfortably and in a really soft and sort of seamless sock-like fit. And then most recently, 3 years ago, I came back to Converse and was VP of Design and Innovation. And so we can talk a little bit about the trends that we did there, because very different at Converse than it is from a Nike perspective. Okay. We're not able to kind of get the video, but how many people have seen Devil Wears Prada? That movie? Almost everybody. Okay. So there's a very famous scene in here where Amanda tells basically, you know, the character that she's wearing a blue sweater. Have you guys seen this? Do you remember?
Yeah.
So, in many ways, that is the same sort of trend forecasting that we see and that we do. So what's happening at the top really starts cascading down to the second layer, third layer, fourth layer, and then eventually is in, you know, the Walmarts and the Targets of the world. And so how do you set some of those trends? And then how do you know where you're at in each one of those levels? Many times you'll be at, let's say, the fourth level, and you're trying to just stretch that consumer a little bit. But you need to know what's happening in those top 3 layers in order to help you get to the right place. Okay. This is one of my favorite business leaders, Peter Drucker. He says the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And I'm a big, big believer in that. I mean, you've heard even as I'm going through some of the different things that I've invented. You know, with Flyknit, that is one of the most popular sort of footwear platforms out there. Adidas copied it very quickly, Puma copied it very quickly, ASICS has it, New Balance has it, almost everybody has that now. But in 2012, when we invented it, it didn't exist. And so it really helped sort of set this whole new wave. So if you're smart enough and if you're good enough, you can set those trends, and then everybody's chasing you, and then you just keep inventing 1 or 2 steps ahead of everyone else. And the more you research, the more you study, the better you'll get at inventing the future. Okay, here's a great way, I think, to look at trend forecasting. Top level, you got to look at, see what's happening from those global trends. Then from a macro trend perspective, these are sort of 3 to 5 year trends that you're just seeing happening all the time. Seasonal trends, okay, what is happening in this season? You have to know your company incredibly well. There's so many times that what I did at Nike did not work at Converse, and vice versa. They're completely different companies. They have different DNA. What consumers are looking for in a Converse product is completely different from what they're looking for in a Nike product. If you get this wrong and you get the wrong trend for your company, even if it's the best idea in the world, you miss the mark. And then 5th is the seasonal direction. So how would I give direction to a team of people like you guys on how all of us are moving in the same direction to hit the right target at the right time? Okay, so on the macro trend, global trend side of things, the financial crisis, happened a few years ago. Right now, we're hearing about coronavirus. It's amazing how that is going to wind up having an impact on all of the trends that we're having right now. So a lot of the business that I'm a consultant now, so I'll do work with a lot of different businesses and give them advice and give them counseling. And we are stuck with multiple companies because they're building in Far East Asia or Southern China. Samples can't get done. Samples can't get out. If you're not able to hit your deadlines, how are you going to make your revenue? How are you going to deliver that product to market if no one's in the factories working? They're scared because they're going to get the coronavirus. So, and that's starting to happen now a little bit in Italy. You know, there's a new kind of outbreak that's happening there. So there are these big global trends that are out there that you kind of have to be sensitive to and aware of from a macro sense. So I always felt like I needed to just have at least one pulse on what was happening in the world overall. Then next click down is some of those macro trends. And Billy Porter went to Carnegie Mellon University too, by the way, so it's so fun seeing him like on the news and on these e-runway shows and that sort of thing. And just what a cool kind of cultural icon he is. So knowing these 3 to 5 year cycles, whether it's matte finishes or velour that is starting to trend up, or what a bold statement of actually wearing a sophisticated dress on the runway for a man, you know, hadn't been really done before. So setting some of those trends and seeing what those macro trends are, I think are really important. One of the other major macro trends, you guys will be so much closer to it because you're younger and you're really connected and the digital world is connecting everyone. That's helping. But there's so many times that I'm working with, let's say, a CEO who's 65 years old and doesn't know that gender fluidity is a thing. Doesn't know that we're becoming more globally diverse, right? And that we're becoming more globally connected. If you miss those macro trends, you're in big, big trouble, right? So you have to know that those 3 to 5 year trends, is this going to be a fad? Is this going to hit really quickly and be a thing? Or is this going to last for 5 years or 10 years? Is it going to have a little bit of staying power in it? And a major part of that is sort of the seasonal trends that start to come up. And these are print, pattern, color, materials, things that we're starting to see on a seasonal basis. So 3 to 6 month scales. Is the summer season that you're doing? Is it the fall season? Are you doing the holiday season? Are you hitting for northern hemisphere or are you doing southern hemisphere? What is the company looking for? You know, the prints that you would choose for a reef in Southern California, really different from Ski-Doo, which is in Montreal, which is doing, you know, outerwear jackets and cold weather gear. I want to talk a little bit about one of the most important things that we do is build an accurate color seasonal palette. And this slide shows up actually twice in the presentation because I think it's just so important. And this would be something that I could see you guys doing in like a year or two in the marketplace. We tended to hire color specialists right out of school because they're the sharpest right out of school. They've got the freshest ideas. They have the best kind of mindset going into it. And there are 3 primary kind of ways for us to look at the palette. The first is foundational colors. And this is a Nike foundational color palette. It's black, white, gray, navy, obsidian, a couple of blues that we use for most team sports. If you know the color Volt from Nike, it indicates all innovation and all new ideas, and so that is a staple. And then something like a reflective is built for us all the time because it's a functional feature. So those are things that last a really long time. You have to have that foundation. If you don't have that foundation, you're really missing the boat completely. Then you have seasonal colors, that's what you want to drive, and then you tend to have a primary seasonal color where you're really trying to lead the market. That's the high energy, like, this is the cool thing in the window that I'm telling you about, and most people will get attracted to that, but then they buy the black. that happens like almost all of the time. But you need that to feel cool and fresh and new for the season. You almost always have to have that. And then let's look at it, how it comes together in a color pyramid. And normally this is sort of a build. So the business needs to be covered. This is mostly 75% of what it sells, right? And you go around campus, do your own little poll. If you see probably 75 to 90% are this solid black, this black and white, or this primarily white. Like even if we look across the floor here, like white, black, 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 white, black, right? Like 90%, right? A huge portion. So many companies miss the mark either here or here. They do something so cool, new, and different that they walk away from money, or they're so concerned about making the money that they don't do anything cool, new, and different. So we call this biz and buzz. You need to cover the business, and you need to create buzz and energy and excitement and pull people into your brand. And then these are the seasonal colors as well. So These are cool, new, and different, but still pretty accessible. I mean, this is Obsidian and Hyper Blue. Really, really wearable colors. Blue, one of the most popular colors globally. And then this is a gold and a red we've never seen before. We had never done it at Nike. It didn't really exist. And that wound up being, a good part of our business, just getting people excited. Questions? I feel like I'm rolling a little bit fast. Another way to start looking at some of the seasonal trends are, who are you trying to target with your consumer portfolio? Are you hitting the early innovators? Plenty of times at Nike we're doing that. If we're trying to get that leading edge. This is where you really, most companies want to be, is with those early adopters. Because if you can be here, then you're hitting the mainstream, which is the largest part of the population, but you're kind of leading it a little bit. Most people don't want to be back here, laggards or late adopters. But there are companies, I mentioned Walmart and Target, that are actually making really good money and really good business by following the trends, by just being sort of a quick follower, and coming very quickly to the market. So you need to know where your consumer is. Just know that this is probably the best sweet spot for the most companies. Try and be on a little bit of that leading edge. Okay, I talked a little bit about the FASH collection. So let's look at it in practice. So this is summer 2015. This is the creative direction that we did, and we'll go through a little bit of the Nike running process to see how this comes to life. First of all, most companies skip this step, which is called 20/20 hindsight. You look back to inform the future. What happened last year? What happened the year before? What were sales? Did orange jackets do really well, or did they suck? Were they terrible? Did $500 jackets sell, or did $100 jackets sell? By evaluating the marketplace and knowing what's working, you see pretty quickly, you see these market opportunities. You see these things are starting to open up. And most companies are kind of blind to this. Today, more than any time in the past, we have access to some of the best data in the world, including Amazon and sales on Amazon. So that can start to track exactly where we want to go. You look at Amazon reviews, you look at what's selling, you look at their sales patterns, and gosh, we can actually get a pretty darn good read on the full marketplace, including our competitors. What have they done? Did Adidas drop something like that Parley plastic, which is all made out of recycled bottles from rescued ocean plastic? Amazing idea, amazingly popular, totally took off. Okay, sustainability is an absolute trend. You have to come with something. What are you going to come with? So hindsighting, one of the most important things that you can do right at the beginning of the season, that can determine where you need to go. We were designing for summer, and so now we need to get into the mindset of the consumer. Summer, best time to run, right? Almost everybody wants to run in the summertime. Weather's good, it's easy, you've got these long days. Imagine what we're just kind of going through. I hate running in December, I hate running in January, certainly February. It's cold, it's dark, it's wet, kind of miserable. A lot of times in Boston we've got extra snow, it's covering the sidewalks, you're running in the street, you could get hit. Miserable time to run. This is actually, all of our sales start to increase March, April, May. Boom, 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 we see everybody getting that spring bug and going out and being like, oh, I gotta get my new gear, I wanna feel really good for the season. So the mindset is all about optimism, all about hope, all about unleashing me to have my best run possible, right? It's sort of this happy, kid-like, I wanna be barefoot-like, sunsets, I can go just in a bra and shorts, there's color runs, there's all sorts of fun things that are happening. So it's easy to do creative direction for the summer because it's such a fun time of year. I mentioned data analytics before. Nike Plus Run Club, we get 18.5 million users running in our products. And the data kind of bears it out. So almost everybody's running in 70 degrees or hotter. Almost 50%, it's more than 80 degrees when they're going out for a run in the summertime. It's enormous. Here's what's kind of crazy too, if you're looking at the data. Yeah, there is a southern hemisphere, and there are people in Chile where it's the reverse season and it's freaking cold. under 32 degrees. So be aware that it's not that big of a market, but there is a market opportunity for doing rain gear and cold weather gear in the Southern Hemisphere. So, but most of our season was towards warm weather, towards Western Europe and North America. This is what we do at the beginning of the season to identify what is our lead footwear story. It's going to be Nike free. It had been for about 4 years. This was the 5th year of it. Super popular model, over 5 million pairs sold. What's our lead apparel? We invented a new technology called Dry Fit Cool, which wicks moisture away from your body and plates it on the top surface, keeps you dry really easily, and it looks beautiful. It's got a gorgeous drape to it, and really lightweight. And then we felt like we had a new business opportunity in trail running. More people were running about a mile to the trail and then going for a run on the trail and then coming back. A lot of people are doing that. So could we create this hybrid sort of part running shoe, part trail shoe? So this is like enormous franchise for footwear, new invention, and new market opportunity. And by saying these are the 3 things that we stand for the season, everybody, I've got teams of 96 people working on this. They all know what's the most important thing and how every small decision that I make adds up to something bigger. And so you need to pull that together with creative direction. And what we wound up doing was this concept called fly. Almost all of these were light and breathable. And so by having a handle of fly, you'll see how that starts to kind of come into fruition. But that helps all of us line up all the pipes. So fly just represented lightweight, fast, cool breeze. Like, you imagine that summertime, right? And you've got that Dry Fit Cool top on, and you've got the Nike free shoes on. You're feeling natural, you're feeling comfortable, you've got a breeze kind of coming through there. It feels like you're flying, right? I want to try and send that message. It also helps to know what problems you're trying to solve. So it's really hot out, you've got to wick the moisture away, and you're running on harder surfaces. So how can you be soft and comfortable as possible? Okay, so at the beginning of the season, this might be fun for you guys. We would say, okay, as a team of 96, we want to go someplace. What's the best place to go to feel this concept of fly? To feel like we're lighter than air and we're running in a breeze. You can go anywhere in the world, million places. We wound up going to Colorado, high altitude training. And the first place we went was the Air Force Academy. So this is an amazing building designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. It's absolutely gorgeous and amazing, and quite a bit of the creative direction actually came from this building itself. So you go with a team, and people take photos, and this was one of my photos, but this is the sunset that's going on there, and some of those started to become the color palette, and we started using some of these metallic finishes and even some of the stained glass windows that you see. It's just great food for designers, right? We're absorbing all of this information that we're getting, and we're talking to some of the best fighter pilots in the world about flying through the air and being fearless, and what's that like. And that's the cool thing about Nike too, is you get access to all sorts of things. We also met with the University of Colorado students. It's important for us to know who our core demographic is. So we met 54 students between the ages of 19 and 21 and just talked to them about what their life was like and what their closet was like and what did they buy and what did they like and what did they not like. You're constantly getting information on what's working about your product, your competitor's product, and what young people are looking for. So you're getting just food. That's what you want at the beginning of the season, as much inspiration as you possibly can get. We also do a lot of performance products, and so we met with the Olympic Training Center. The World Championships was happening at the same time in 2015, and so we needed to build some of the best performing products in the world. We talked to sports psychologists about what it feels like to be flying through the air. We talked to long jumpers who are flying through the air, high jumpers who are flying through the air, and got some of that insight. We also saw that trail opportunity. We talked to some of the best trail runners in the world, and we ran at high altitude, including these flat irons. Again, you're testing the product, feeling it out, seeing what you can do. And this starts to give you a little bit of a feeling for the creative direction. everything that we wound up doing was floating or flying in the air. So our photo shoot with Allison Felix is her with the jacket sort of billowing up and flying through the air to try and help communicate. Whether we say that in an ad or not, you start to see, oh, she looks lighter than air. I talked a little bit about the color palette. So this was another one of our color designers who took this from the airplane. And you can see like this deeper obsidian to sky blues to oranges and yellows that wound up coming into our seasonal palette, which you saw a little bit of before. And then I'll give you a sense for some of the products. So this was that Dry Fit Cool. This was the final product when it was done. The best, lightest, moisture wicking, fastest drying top on the market, period. Gives you nice coverage, especially as a woman or a man, and it just feels like you're wearing absolutely nothing. So beautiful colors kind of coming in here through the purple and some of the aquas that came directly from this trip. The footwear, you're starting to see some of the corals and some of the reds that we were able to bring in. That was the new Nike Free. Everything's about fly, everything's about breathable, so these are all breathable channels. It's still got a nice support structure there, but man, it's one of the lightest, most breathable shoes we've ever built, and it all kind of came from this creative direction. And then again, we took some of the best athletes in the world, some of the Kenyans, and we brought them to Hawaii, warm place, at altitude, and you can see them sort of flying through the air as well, but you start to see all of the different products, the Free 3.0, the Breeze jacket, the Dry Fit Cool on them, you know, coming through. So the whole collection starts tying together. Everybody knows what they're working on. You see the color palette, you know, that fade that we sort of saw in the sunset, and even some of the night sky stars that start to come through there. And then on the well, keep rolling, just giving you a sense for some of these. And then on the trail, we reinvented that, and you're always looking for like a new print. So this print is like a camouflage print, but if you look really close, each one of these is a feather. So lightweight, fly, it's that same kind of concept. So instead of doing the standard camouflage that you do every single season, by putting that seasonal filter of fly over top of it, they said, oh, I'm going to build it out of feathers. And so it creates something totally new you haven't seen before. So you're inventing that trend before it happens. Oh, and then this is some of the stuff that I love. So how do you then bring it to life? So we ended the season with the longest day of the year. So June 21st, longest day of the year, and we chased the sun from when it first came up on the 21st in New Zealand, and we had 5K, 10K run there. Then we went to Beijing, 5K, 10K run. We followed the sun all the way around the earth, all the way through the United States, through New York City, through LA, and then eventually to Hawaii, where we had this huge kind of end party. And in that time, we also did these city fly runs. So we went to the tallest building, this is the Sears Tower in Chicago, and we put treadmills up on the Sears Tower. And then literally at sunset, you had all of these Nike Plus runners that put themselves into a pool and got accepted, and then could run basically on these treadmills on the highest, tallest building. We did it in 26 cities across the world. And then we had a drone go around and fly and take pictures of them and then post it to their social media, which was amazing. Everybody loved this, right? Like it looks, and some of the drone photos are like you and the sunset, and it looks like you're running on the clouds, right? So it's this amazing sort of culmination of the early ideas to final kind of execution. Okay, I think that might be all the content that we had for today. We're doing okay on time, so that leaves us plenty of time for Q&A. What do you guys think? Yeah?
Well, thanks for coming. Appreciate this. The one thing that stuck out to me was the Vapor Max. I remember when that first came out, I remember seeing that, just being really confused, just like looking at it, like I had no idea what it was made out of, and then actually like getting my hands on it and then trying it on. It was really cool, but like, what was the the need you were kind of fulfilling by creating this new sole. Like
Yeah.
it is so out there.
Yeah.
Like what was the spark?
So the
that-
origin was, if you followed sort of Nike Air Max in general, it has been the most expensive shoe and the least recommended for real runners ever. So that's a problem for us, right? If it's $150 and no one wants to run in it, you're not doing something right. So we said, okay, let's break it down to what if that $150 shoe was the best? What would it do? It would be the most flexible, it would be more flexible than Nike Free. It would be more cushioned than any lunar system that we've got or any foam system that we've got. It would be lighter than most of our track spikes if we could get that. And then overall it would just be kind of seamless and comfortable and no irritation spots. So that was the origin. Then I invented the Air Max bag. So that took a devastatingly long 3 years, and like that's where all this gray hair came from. So painful to engineer that and get that right, to fulfill that promise that we sort of set for ourselves. It would have been really easy to make it rock hard. It would have been really easy to make it not flexible at all or heavy. That's easy stuff. But to get all 4 of those parameters in place was super tricky. So it kept getting delayed. I'm pissing off every single one of the managers at the same time, and I'm just saying it's not ready, it's not ready, it's not ready. And I'm just so thankful that we waited until it was really good before putting it out. So origin was make the best thing that you can, and now it's more like, it's actually more popular on the lifestyle side of things. There are great colors of it that have come out. There's a new DCS coloring system, so all the airbags can be different colors. So, yeah, that's the story.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. First, do you find that like spotting trends within athletes is like easier or harder than just like casual everyday wear?
Yeah.
Because I know when I did running all throughout high school, the only thing we went for was like the best shoe, and I feel like all 4 years we were all wearing safety yellow, and that was it.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you?
Yeah, it really depends. And so another example that I can use is we worked on a product for Eliud Kipchoge, who just broke the 2-hour marathon. How many people have seen this or heard about this? Nobody? One or two, right? So 5 years ago, we set a benchmark of what if Nike could actually invent products that helped people be more efficient and more successful as marathon runners? What would that look like? And we started to, it was just me and 2 other guys talking at lunch, and we said, I wonder if Nike was around during Roger Bannister, could we have helped him break the 4-minute mile before he broke the 4-minute mile? And we said, is there another like big mark that's out there today that's similar to that? And the 2-hour marathon was sort of that. The world record of the marathon was 2 hours, 2 minutes, 56 seconds. And if you took that and said, broke it down the math, if we could improve performance by 4%, you would break 2 hours in the marathon. Okay, that's kind of cool. So how do we get 4% improvement? Let's do everything that we possibly could do. Let's invent a brand new foam. And it turned out that this foam was incredibly light and really bouncy. It gave you about a half an inch on every stride. Every step that you took, you got an extra half an inch. That adds up to breaking a 2-hour marathon, just that foam alone. Now it's crazy expensive and it doesn't last very long. Okay, so those are 2 problems. But if your goal is just break the 2-hour marathon, that's going to help. How do we make it more aerodynamic? How do we make it, we put in a propulsion plate to give you, extra spring. And as part of the aerodynamics, we tapered the whole shoe. And I'm wondering if there's anybody who's got like a Nike shoe. Nope. It wound up changing all of the aesthetics. Anyway, let me wrap up that part of the story. We broke the 2-hour marathon. So we put it in an athlete and we stacked the deck in every way that we could to help him. And Eliud Kipchoge broke the 2-hour marathon. Huge, amazing human feat. People are saying that it's like the man landing on the moon. That's how big it feels. In that process of inventing for him, we wound up creating a new visual aesthetic that really changed the way that shoes look. So they're much more tapered and they actually come to a cone now. So almost all the running line now has that same cone, and all of our competitors are copying that cone. So sometimes it starts with raw performance and it creates an aesthetic that no one has seen before. I love that. You can see it in the portfolio and all the things that I'm sharing. But there's plenty of times that it comes from the other direction too, where it could be, you know, the stained glass window that we saw at the Frank Lloyd Wright building, you know, in Colorado. Sometimes it's just like, feel it in your gut. You're like, that's cool. I love that color, or I love that mixture of those two colors, so I'm going to bring that to the table. And that was more Converse, I think, for me, was like that, where you're always looking for that latest fashion trend.
And also
Second,
quickly,
yeah.
you had like the Off-White Converse collab there. I
Yeah.
was just wondering if you had anything to do with that. Or
I
like
did, yeah. So I worked with
Virgil.
Virgil Abloh on that. And if you go back to my portfolio, one of the shoes that I had invented was the Lunar Racer. And so I brought a whole bunch of shoes with me to meet Virgil and said, you know, hey, do any of these speak to you? And he grabbed that one right away and he's like, I remember when this came out in 2008, it's so cool. It's transparent, it's totally see-through. Do you think we could do that with the Chuck Taylor? And I'm like, it's kind of hard, dude. Like it's completely different construction. The running construction is lightweight and breathable and built for performance, and the Chuck Taylor is a 110-year-old shoe. It's a vulcanized process. It's just completely different. And if you know the shoe, like he literally wrote vulcanized on it, and he wrote left and right, and it took us a long time, but we got that performance material to carry over to that transparent Chuck Taylor that we did with him, and it's one of the best-selling shoes that Chuck has ever done. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. These are great questions, by the way, so keep them coming.
I have a question because your whole presentation was like incredible, your whole background, and I was wondering what is like a shoe you worked on that was a failure for you guys,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how you took that to move forward.
Yeah, these are some of the best questions too, and I'm feeling more and more comfortable about talking about failure. I used to like be terrified about letting people know that there's plenty of times that I've sucked. You know, it's really easy to talk about the highlights, but you actually learn more from those lowlights. So in the 2012 Olympics, I did a shoe called the ESP shoe, and it was, if you know the Nike Plus chip, we're able to track runners, and it tells you how far, how fast you ran. And we were going to take that same technology to basketball players. Cool idea, really cool idea. And it started working. You can see how far they run on the court, how high they're jumping on the court, how many times they're jumping on the court. And we got really, really close to the end in the Olympics in 2012, and we started running into some difficulties. We didn't ask questions, I think, early enough up front. So, what starts happening? LeBron James, one of the athletes who's performing in basketball, realizes that Dwayne Wade actually has better data than he does. Dwayne is running farther, running faster, jumping higher. And for LeBron, you don't want that knowledge kind of getting out to the masses and letting everybody know. We were planning on having everybody at home live track every single one of these athletes and find out, you know, how much they're doing. But also you would have the ability to compare it to yourself. You know, if LeBron is a 42-inch vertical and maybe I'm 36-inch vertical, I can try and work my way towards his amazing level and skill. So we thought this is going to be the great democratic sort of leadership position that Nike can wind up taking. So LeBron and some of the athletes started having an issue with, hey, you're not going to share my data because it might look like I'm loafing a little bit or for different parts of the game. The NBA said, we don't want you sharing that data because it's our athletes. And the Olympic Committee said, we own that data because it's happening during the Olympics. Everybody fought over the data, and we wound up making huge mistakes. We made 1 million units, way too many. It was very expensive, $200, and then all the athletes pulled out at the last minute, and the whole thing completely fell apart. I'm sure that there are still ESP shoes that have not sold from 2012. You know, that's how bad it was. So things like that happen.
Sounds like a cool shoe.
I think it's actually, we've been talking about it recently, that it could have the potential to now catch on, maybe because things have changed since 2012.
Mm-hmm.
The technology's certainly gotten better. Yeah, you guys are asking good questions. Okay, yeah.
What was the difference to you in designing a performance shoe versus designing more of like the lifestyle shoe like Converse?
Yeah, yeah.
What was the-
Hardest thing for me, everybody's different. Everybody's different. And I used to believe that you can just train and learn and problem solve in both of those areas. I think since I've retired, I've got a slightly different mindset, which is I think I am a born and bred performance guy, and I love it, and I get it, and I get all those insights from those athletes, and just those interviews help me invent and create something that I've never seen before. When I'm talking to kids at Converse, there's so many different opinions. Everyone wants something different. You're trying to make everybody happy. I think it's a little bit harder, but I know people that love it and are just amazing, naturally gifted at inventing streetwear, and I'm not. So I think it just depends on who you are and what your background is and training. What else? More failures? Just learn a lot from failures. Anything else? Think about, you guys are a year or two away from entering the marketplace, getting a job. Semester? Yeah, like right around the corner.
Yeah,
What are some
right.
of those questions that you guys are thinking about? Who's going to hire me? What do they look for in a portfolio? All those questions. I mean, I think I'll tell you more about some of my mistakes. So I graduated second in my class, and I thought, okay, I'm off to the races because I busted my ass. I got great grades. I've got a really good portfolio, and then I sucked in all the interviews. And I think hindsight's telling me I know why. I was more scared to screw up in the interview than I was to just be myself and answer questions accurately and be authentic and be real. I was terrified. And so, that comes across as being really flat and really boring and like, no energy and no connection. He's not going to work out. He's not a good cultural fit here. So I did not get a job for about 6 months out of school. So be yourself. Apply to companies that you love. If you love that company, chances are they're going to really like you. Don't force yourself to a company that you're not really feeling it for, because pretty much whatever you do is not going to be what they're looking for. Your instincts will be off. Your instincts will be pushing you in places that they're just not ready for or they don't want. So go through your list of who do I love and apply there first. Chances are they're going to resonate with your true self. Yeah.
What are some of the qualities that you would want people on your team to have?
Creativity is number one, especially from a Converse perspective, and that's the job that I'm just coming out of, so that's the one that's resonating the most with me and probably connects the most with this group. Energy, passion, creativity. It's do you have great ideas? Do you see the world differently? I love mixing people from all over the world with different backgrounds into one alchemy, because that's when you get these really interesting dialogues of, okay, I got somebody from Western Europe, and I got somebody from Southern Pacific, and from the United States, Midwest, and from New York City, and we put them all together, and we have little battles and fights and dialogues and discussions. That's when the best, cool, global ideas come out, is when you have a really diverse group. So I don't want cookie cutter people. Same across the board, because then they'll all agree with each other, and we'll all just produce the same thing that we've been producing for the last 10 years. You want that creativity. Yeah.
I have a question, because I feel like a lot of jobs, it's more like who you know, not what you know.
Super
So
true.
how would you say to differentiate ourselves if we're going into an interview and the person who went before us has an uncle who works there? How would you, if you had to choose between two candidates where you know the person's uncle and you don't know them at all, what would make you choose the person that has no connection?
Yeah, I think this is your point on exactly where the world works, and it's crazy that it is this way, but it is so much about those connections. And the truth is, through most of my career, if I did have that one leg up, or it just gave me that one degree of confidence that somebody knows them and they are okay, that bumps it in their favor in general. So, and I hate that. So one, I would say everybody in here should be working your network. And it can be a friend of your dad who you once met one time, and you can leverage that relationship. That can make a big difference. So leverage your network. The other is, if you can make that personal connection in the room, that makes a world of difference. So what I see a lot of times, it's a great, I think, potential insight for you guys. You don't necessarily have to be there and sell yourself. I am the greatest candidate, I'm really brilliant. I actually think it works better if you ask more questions of the interviewer. Because if you start finding out a little bit more about them, one, they love talking about themselves, and they love talking about the job itself, then you just reflect back what you're hearing. What I'm hearing you say is you need somebody who is young and creative, and that matches my profile. Or what I'm hearing you say is you need someone who helps you in this way, and you're reflecting that back to them. So the better you research the job or know the job or listen to the person who's interviewing you, you can get a lot from human resources too. They're wonderful people to feed you the right information to, is this the right job for me or not? Go on lots of practice interviews, that's awesome to do. Even if it's not quite the right fit, sometimes you go in even that much more relaxed because it's not a perfect fit. And you just learn, you're exercising those muscles and getting used to the interviewing process. The more you can make a personal connection with someone, that will override any networking that happens. What else? These are good questions, guys. Yeah?
How long did it take you to get to being a creative director, and how did you get to that position?
Yeah. So I started out as the lowest of the lowest of the lowest on the totem pole at Daedalus Design, building models and sketching and doing whatever they asked me to do, and including mowing the lawn. I did everything that they needed me to do at that job. There's so many funny stories from starting out at that entry level, and so I appreciate that I had that foundation in order to work off of. Then I didn't talk about this, but I went to New Balance actually for 3 years, and I learned a lot at New Balance. New Balance was not necessarily the most innovative, but they manufactured in the United States, and they manufactured right next to my office. So I was building shoes right away 2 years out of school. Gosh, what a great education that was. Then I went to Nike, and it was about 5 years that I was a designer. So now we're talking probably 8 years of experience. And then I got my first creative director's job. And I was the youngest creative director at Nike, so I'm not sure I was 100% ready for it, but I was one of those people who was having success as an individual, and so I was begging them to promote me because I'm totally ready for this. And this I see happen all the time. I'm a senior designer, I'm really good at this, I can totally lead groups, even though I've never done that before. And there's a learning curve there. It takes time to figure out how to inspire and motivate people and give them that right balance of, I want you to be creative because I know you're a creative person. At the same time, I need to help direct you to make sure that your creativity goes in the right direction. It could go over here and it misses the mark. So I've got to find that balance of allowing you to be you and not restricting that, but making sure that it's lined up with the market. And so that's tricky. So I think probably 2 years, 3 years where I was just okay at my job. And then, so now I'm probably at 11 years or 12 years that I started getting good. And then I think I probably, another 10, 15 years of just being good. So it takes a while. I know there have been lots of times that, I had an intern last summer who was like, I want to be VP next year. And you're like, okay, that's awesome. I love that drive, but it takes time. It really takes time. We're close to time.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I think we have a couple minutes actually.
Okay.
So we've heard about all these amazing experiences at different companies. Is it fair game to ask about what you're doing now?
Yeah, sure, yeah. So I'm having a total blast now. So retired, consulting, most of my business has sort of been in that Nike and Converse world, and now I get to do things outside of that world. So this one's kind of tight, so keep it turn the camera off. I'm working on a new sustainable snowmobile for a company in Montreal. Love it, absolutely amazing. Yeah, really, really cool. And I have a huge passion for sustainability, and I'm actually noticing that there's not that many experts in the world for sustainability right now. And if you're really smart and you're a really good problem solver, you can go in and you can work with a lot of these companies. You can save them a ton of money and do amazing things for the planet at the same time. So the snowmobile is totally quiet, so there's no noise pollution. There's zero petroleum used in it whatsoever. It's all electric based. So it's stunning to see the jump that they're making. I'm working with Philips Healthcare on some medical devices. That's been really fun. Stanley Tools on new hardware. I've got a new hockey skate that I'm working with a team on hockey skates. So like pretty broad range. Yeah. So really fun.
Tell my dad he loves wheels.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is he from northern US?
We're from Mass, but he has a house in Maine,
Yeah.
and me and Cassie were in the car the other day, and one of his friends like crashed his snowmobile, broke his leg. So yeah.
No, I know. This happens all the time too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I used to cry when I was little because the snowmobiles were too loud. And he'd like turn them on in the backyard, and I'd start crying because it was so loud.
I know. Yeah. You and the rest of the world. You know? Yeah. It's true.
The start was all about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great start.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I don't want to dominate here.
Final. Yeah.
All right, can I ask one more, Sean?
Yeah. Please.
Okay, so there was a slide up there about 2020 hindsighting,
Yeah.
right? So we have talked a little bit in the last few weeks about a similar process, right? Looking back to look forward. So it seemed like, at least for Nike, it was concentrated pretty much in the last year. So I'm wondering if what the conversation, if any, at Nike looked like going back further than that. So we've actually very recently done a little bit of, had a little dialogue and project work around retro fashion and vintage fashion and the very cyclical life cycle of fashion products and that kind of piece of things. So I wonder if that's
Yeah, and I think
entered
that's one of
into
the
your...
coolest things about this era that we're in now. You guys know that for so many years there were sort of these 25-year cycles that were happening. You know, you'd go back to look at the 70s and you'd see flared jeans, and then we would do our bootcut jeans, and you'd always put a little bit of a new twist on it. Basically it was this 25-year cycle. Now we're in, I think, one of the coolest times ever, where the digital age has opened us up to access to everything. And so now people are mixing and mashing cultures and time periods more than it's ever happened before. So you're seeing that leather jacket from the 50s kind of dropped in now, and you're pulling in a silhouette from, let's say, the 80s, you know, that is a little bit different, or a seaming technology that is brand new from 2000. So I think sampling is happening more than it ever has in the past. And at Converse we would do, so at Nike probably, a year or two or three, but Converse we would do much bigger arcs than that, 5-year, 10-year. And one of my favorite things that we would do at Converse was we had something called the Day of the Dead. So anything that was a cool idea that anybody came up with and it never made it to market, but you were close and you might have just missed the mark by like maybe a year or two, you have the ability on the Day of the Dead to bring that back up, November 1st, to bring it back up and say, here's an idea that didn't make it last year or 2 years or 10 years ago, but we think it could make it now. I loved that because it's always like something fresh or something new that came up. So yes, especially in fashion, look at those long-term trends and see where those market opportunities are.
Thank you.
Okay, I know you guys have other classes. Thank you very much for allowing me to come and spend some time with you. It's always a blast. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much. Awesome. All right, folks. That's it for today. So I will maybe see some of you, maybe not see some of you on Monday, depending on how you opt into the exam, and then I will see you a week from today.
Oh yeah, great. always such a good class, yeah. And the kids
Yeah.
are always asking really good
Yeah,
questions.
it's a good group. It's a good group.
Do
Yeah.
different projects.